All right, in this module, we're going to focus on Pearson product moment correlation and also its non-parametric equivalent, which is what we refer to as the Spearman correlation with using JASP. Okay. Now, the Pearson product moment correlation generates a coefficient which we call the Pearson correlation coefficient, which is denoted by letter R. And this coefficient measures the strength and direction of a linear relationship between two continuous variables. And we take note of the values. It can range from -1, wherein a value of -1 would represent a perfect negative linear relationship, okay? And that is up until the value of +1, which represents a perfect positive linear relationship. Now, what about when the value of R is 0? Now, a value of 0 means that there is no relationship between the variables. Now, this statistical test is often known by its shorter title, which we will refer to it in the rest of our discussion as the Pearson correlation or Pearson's correlation. Now, the variables required is that there are two variables that are at least in the interval level. So mean to say it could be in the interval level or it could be in the ratio level. And they are paired, meaning to say each case has two values, one for each of the variable. So meaning to say you have a set of participants or set of elements that are measured twice at two different variables. Now, what problems can you solve using the Pearson correlation? Now, a Pearson correlation is most often used to discover the relationship between two variables. And in this type of study design, you have measured two variables that are paired observations, and you wish to determine the strength of the linear relationship between these two paired variables. Now, for example, here you say you would want to find out if there is a linear relationship between height and basketball performance. So each individual, okay, you are going to measure their height and their corresponding basketball performance. So we have paired observations. I mean to say they have two values for each of the individuals in the sample. Now, what about how do we formulate our null and alternative hypothesis? Now, the Pearson correlation coefficient R is a sample coefficient. So mean to say your data is taken from the sample data. That is, its value represents the strength and direction of the linear relationship that exists in the sample that you studied. Now, however, you might also want to estimate the Pearson correlation coefficient if you have a population data. Okay, and here you wish to determine whether the population correlation coefficient is not 0, meaning a linear relationship actually exists. Now, how do we denote the correlation coefficient if the data is taken from the population? Now, the population correlation coefficient will be labeled using this Greek symbol, which is what we refer to as rho. Okay, so it's the Greek lowercase letter rho, okay, to represent the correlation coefficient of the population data. But if it is a sample data, then we use the Pearson correlation coefficient, which will be denoted by R. Now, how do we formulate our null and alternative hypothesis as we follow our institutional research format? Okay, the null hypothesis will be stated in this manner, that is, there is no significant correlation between variable 1 and variable 2. Okay, correspondingly, the alternative hypothesis would be that is there is a significant correlation between variable 1 and variable 2, right? Now, what are the things to consider? It is only appropriate to use Pearson's correlation if your data passes the 4 assumptions that are required for Pearson's correlation to give you a valid result. Okay, that is, for the first assumption, you have two variables that are measured in either the interval or in the ratio level. Okay, and here for your assumption number 2, there needs to be a linear relationship between the two variables. And how do we determine if there is a linear relationship between your two variables? The best way of doing so or checking this assumption is we're going to come up with our scatter plot diagram, and we're going to visually inspect the graph if indeed there is a linear relationship existing between the two variables. Now, for your third assumption, there should be no significant outliers. Okay? And correspondingly, if you wish to run inferential statistics, okay, you also need to satisfy the assumption for bivariate normality. So, mean to say the distribution should be normally distributed. Okay, now, before we proceed to run the Pearson correlation using JASP, okay, let us first have an idea of what our data is about. Okay, so the example that we use in this guide is that a sample of 118 university students between the ages of 18 to 25 were recruited through flyers, email announcements, and online forums. Now, they were asked to accomplish a self-report questionnaire asking them to estimate their average weekly usage of popular social media platforms, that is Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and Twitter, in hours, which is measured in hours. So the amount of time they spend in social media platforms. And they were asked to answer a validated scale, Rosenberg self-esteem scale, wherein the higher scores would indicate higher self-esteem. And now, if you open your file later on, okay, in this example, there will be two variables when you open your file. Okay, Pearson.just file, right? There will be two columns. The first column represents the time or the average weekly usage of popular social media platforms in terms of hours. And the second column is their score and the self-esteem scale. Okay, and let's formulate our non-alternative hypothesis for our data, right? So we indicate, or what we wish to answer is that is there significant correlation between time spent on social media and self-esteem scores in young adults, right? So our null hypothesis would be there is no significant correlation between time spent on social media and self-esteem scores in young adults. Okay, so the two variables that we have will be the time spent on social media and self-esteem scores, right? Correspondingly, our alternative hypothesis would be there is a significant correlation between time spent on social media and self-esteem scores in young adults. Okay? So identify the variables as what we've indicated, the time spent on social media and self-esteem scores in young adults, right? Now, we have to be careful. Okay, we don't have an independent and dependent variable. Okay, although your study design might have that specification. However, for the Pearson correlation, okay, it's not a cause and effect relationship. Okay, so that means to say we don't have an independent and dependent variable. Okay, we keep in mind that later on, when we find out that there is a significant correlation between the two variables, it does not mean that one variable would cause the other and vice versa. Okay, there's only a possible link between the two, or an association between the two, or they are related or they are correlated, but then one variable does not cause the other. Okay, because correlation does not imply causation. So you have to keep that in mind. Okay, so we will, how did we say, or how can we say that we are going to use the Pearson correlation for the statistical test to be used? Okay, so we still have to look into or to verify certain assumptions whether we can proceed to use the Pearson correlation. And in here, we have to test the assumption for establishing the linear relationship if indeed it exists. Okay, so we need to establish if a linear relationship exists between the two variables, and that is because Pearson's correlation is only appropriate when there is a linear relationship between your two variables. Now, in this example, a linear relationship between average weekly usage of popular social media platforms in hours and self-esteem. Okay, now to determine if a linear relationship exists, you need to visually inspect, and that is, we're going to come up with a scatter plot diagram of the two variables. So if the relationship approximately follows a straight line, we're not saying that all data points should lie on the same line, but there is a trend. Okay, then you have a linear relationship existing between the two. Okay, however, if you have something other than a straight line, for example, a curved line, you do not have a linear relationship. And an example of a linear and two non-linear relationships are found in our next slide. Okay, now notice in the first two figures that we see, okay, we observe a linear trend, okay, in our data points. Okay, this one is going, it increases as it goes to the right, okay, the trend. Okay, however, in this case here, the trend decreases as we go to the right. Okay, now in order to run the Pearson correlation, basically, we are looking for a linear relationship which will be similar to the first and second scatter plot diagrams that we see here. Okay? What we see on the next two diagram, or the next two illustration, we see a non-linear relationship because there is a curve trend. Okay? In the fourth diagram, it's also non-linear because if you notice, the trend is that it goes up in this part of the diagram and then it goes down. Okay, so we have if you're going to look at this, it's parabolic in nature. Okay, so these two does not exhibit linear relationship, but they are non-linear relationship. Okay, and we cannot use Pearson correlation if this is the relationship that exists between the two variables. So we are looking for approximately linear trend existing between the two variables, which are found in the first two figures that we have here. Okay, now, how do you deal with nonlinearity? Okay. Now, if your scatter plot shows a relationship between your two variables that is not linear, you need to establish whether the relationship is at least monotonic. When you say monotonic, mono means one. So mean to say one trend. Okay, or not. Okay, now a monotonic relationship is a relationship that does not or that does one of the following. So it will exhibit, meaning to say, as the value of one variable increases, so does the value of the other variable. Okay? That is monotonic. So they are increasing. Okay? As the value of one variable increases, the other variable value decreases. So that's also monotonic. So we have examples of monotonic and non-monotonic scenarios here. In the first figure, this is a linear trend. So basically, it's monotonic. Once it's linear, it's understandable, or we can say that it follows a monotonic trend because there's only one trend. So in this case here, this decreases as we go to the right. This one, the second figure, is also monotonic. Monotonic because as I go to the right, the trend increases. However, take notice, it's not linear. Okay, it's not linear because it follows a curve trend, but it is increasing as we go to the right. In the third figure, this is an example of a non-monotonic trend. It's not linear, okay, and it's non-monotonic. It's not linear because the trend is parabolic. Non-monotonic because we don't see only one trend. How is that so? As we go from left to right, it increases. And then from here, from this point forward, as we move to the right, it decreases. So there are two trends, not just one, not just monotonic. So this scenario here is non-monotonic relationship. So when we say at least monotonic, may it be linear or non-linear as long as it is monotonic or there is only one trend. Okay? Now, it is important to establish whether there is a monotonic relationship because your two variables, or between your two variables, because this is also an underlying assumption for the use of the Spearman's rank order correlation or the Spearman correlation, which is an alternative statistical test that you might be interested to use instead of the Pearson's correlation when you do not have a linear relationship. Now, for the first figure that you see here, this is a linear trend, which is given to be monotonic already. So we use Pearson correlation here. But if it is curved, and in this case, it's non-linear, but it is monotonic because as we go to the right, it increases. Okay? Then you can use Spearman correlation in this case. But the moment it is non-monotonic, then you could not use Pearson nor Spearman correlation. Okay, that is, therefore, if you determine your relationship to be non-monotonic, as what we see in the third figure, the Spearman's rank order correlation option will not be available to you, not at least until you have transformed one or more of your variables to get a monotonic relationship, which strictly speaking, you could run a nonlinear model, but which is rarely done. Okay? Now, if your variables would show a nonlinear monotonic relationship, okay, which is what we see in the second figure here, it's nonlinear monotonic. You can either run a Spearman rank order correlation, or you can coax the nonlinear relationship to a linear one using one or more of the transformations of your data, which we avoid to do. Okay. Here, so in that case, if you have a nonlinear monotonic, we use the Spearman rank order correlation. But if you have a linear trend, then automatically we can use the Pearson correlation. Okay, now, I need you to open our file, the Pearson.jasp file, which is found in our Canvas module. Okay, so the following procedure would show you how to run a Pearson's correlation in JASP. Okay, what we do, when you open the file, as sort of indicated, you will see two columns. What you need to do is to, in order to run the correlation analysis, you need to go to regression and choose correlation. When you do so, this window will appear. Okay? Now move the two variables to the analysis box, the time and self-esteem, which was originally found in this box. So you transfer it under variables. Okay? And then, following the commands that we see below, okay, we need to take Pearson's R because we have seen that, or we need to check if there is a linear trend indeed that would exist between the two variables. Hence, we are going to generate the scatter plot diagram later on. Okay, so for now, we use the Pearson correlation. Okay, and then you need to click on display pairwise under additional options, then report significance and flag significant correlation. So we need to tick these three. Okay, then below that, we need to tick the sample size so that the sample size will appear in our output. Okay, and under the plots, we need to generate scatter plots. Okay, this is important, right? And then alternative hypothesis by default, I believe, will be correlated. So you leave it as it is. Okay. Now, next step is we need to see under assumption checks. Okay. So under assumption checks, choose pairwise normality. That is Shapiro-Wilks test. Okay. So under assumption checks, you need to take Shapiro under pairwise normality. Okay, so here this is used to check if the distribution satisfies the assumption for bivariate normality. Now, the first table that you will have to check is the assumption checks, which involves the Shapiro-Wilks test for bivariate normality. Now, we will know that there is no violation for the assumption for normality when the p-value is greater than 0.05. Okay, so the assumption, so what we have here, the p-value is 0.077, which is indeed greater than 0.05. Hence, the assumption for the of bivariate normality is not violated. If this is violated, automatic, you may proceed to use the Spearman correlation, which I'm also going to demonstrate in a while. All right? Now, the next one that you need to check is the scatter plot diagram. The scatter plot diagram was generated, and this must exhibit a linear relationship between the variables. By visual inspection, we see, okay, that our data points would follow a linear trend. We don't expect all the data points to lie on the same line. If they do, then we have a perfect correlation existing between the two, okay? Now, in here, by visually inspecting the scatter plot, there is a linear relationship between time spent on social media and self-esteem. Okay? So therefore, we can proceed to use the Pearson correlation. Take note, here, if there is no linear relationship, you have to establish whether there is a monotonic trend or relationship between your two variables, because this is an assumption for the use of the Spearman rank order correlation, which is our alternative statistical test that you might use instead of the Pearson's correlation when you do not have a linear relationship. Okay? The next one that you're going to look at is the correlation table. The correlation table, okay, will indicate our sample size, which is 118. Okay, the Pearson's R, or the correlation coefficient, which in this case is negative. Okay, how is it that it's negative? If we're going back to our scatter plot diagram, it's negative. It's because As I go to the right, the trend decreases. Okay, or the trend line. Okay, or this line that you see here decreases as you go to the right. So we expect the value of R to be negative. Okay, now we also check our p-value. Okay, this will dictate what decision we're going to make later on. So how do we present the parameters that are needed for the Pearson's correlation? Now we use the following procedure or template, that is R of the DF, or degrees of freedom. Degrees of freedom is given to be n minus 2. So whatever n you have here, you have to subtract 2 from that. That will give you the degrees of freedom. Okay, then we need the value for the Pearson's R correlation and then our p-value. Okay, now the result above indicates that there is a strong negative correlation between time and self-esteem. How were we able to come up with this interpretation? Let's go back. The magnitude of the Pearson correlation coefficient determines the strength of the correlation. Although there are no hard and fast rules for assigning strength of association to particular values, some general guidelines are provided by Cohen. So we're going to refer to the following strength of the association. Okay, so if the value of R, take note, we're just getting the absolute value because we're talking of the magnitude. Okay, so may it be it's positive or negative. If it's between 0.1 and 0.3, it's small correlation. If it's between 0.3 and 0.5, there's medium correlation. If it's greater than 0.5, then you have a large or strong correlation. The effect is trivial if the value of R is less than 0.1. Going back, our Pearson's R is negative 0.948. Getting the absolute value would be 0.948, which is greater than 0.5. Therefore, we have a strong correlation existing between time and self-esteem. Okay? But let's not forget the negative sign. Okay, so that's why we're able to come up with this interpretation. That is, in here, our p-value is less than 0.05. Because it's less than 0.001, obviously it's less than 0.05. Therefore, we say, or our decision is to reject the null hypothesis. Rejecting the null hypothesis would mean to say we take our alternative hypothesis. Doing so would lead us to conclude that there is a significant correlation. If the correlation is significant, ask yourself how strong or how weak the correlation is. That's where you refer to the value of R. So since the value of R is negative 0.948, we have a strong negative correlation between the two of them. So the result above indicates that there is a strong negative correlation between time and self-esteem with the following parameters. The R of 116 is equal to negative 0.948 with a p-value which is less than 0.001. Okay? Now, let's take the analysis one step further. Okay? If you take the correlation coefficient R and square it, you get the coefficient of determination, which is R squared. Okay? There is a statistical measure of the proportion of variance, okay, or the R squared that you have here is a statistical measure of the proportion of variance in one variable that is explained by the other variable, which can also be expressed as a percentage, which is R squared. Okay, in our case, say for example, it's 0.899, or you will multiply it by 100%, then our R squared will be 89.9%. Okay, remember that this explained refers to being explained statistically, not causally. Okay, it's not cause and effect. Okay, now R squared will always be between 0 and 100%, where 0% indicates that the model explains none of the variability of the response data around its mean, and 100% would indicate that the model explains all the variability of the response data around its mean. So from our example, our R is negative 0.948. Squaring that would lead you to 0.899. This suggests that time spent on social media accounts for 89.9% of the variance in self-esteem. Okay, now how do we report our results? Okay, so we will need these three outputs: the assumption checks on by normality, the scatter plot diagram, and then we will need the correlation table or the Pearson's correlation. Now we conclude a Pearson's product moment correlation was run to assess the relationship or the correlation between time spent on social media and self-esteem scores in young adults. 118 participants were recruited, and that preliminary analysis showed the relationship to be linear, with both variables being normally distributed as assessed by Shapiro-Wilks test. That is, the p-value of the Shapiro-Wilks test for normality is greater than 0.05, and there were no outliers. As we see, or so as we have seen in the scatter plot diagram. Now, there was a strong negative correlation between time and self-esteem, wherein we have the parameters R of 116 is equal to negative 0.948, and the p-value is less than 0.001, where time spent on social media explaining 89.9% of the variance in self-esteem. So this is how we come up with our conclusion or our interpretation, okay, with the use of the Pearson product moment correlation using JASP. Okay, so I hope everything is clear, right?